Welcome back to Teen TV Deep Dive. Here on this channel, we talk about all things teen TV. Today, we're going to be discussing season 2 of the TV show Glee and dive into new storylines and relationships. I really like this season because more people get a lot more spotlight and attention that they didn't get before. So, season 2 picks up in a brand new school year. Over the summer, we see that there have been some new relationships that have been formed, like Finn and Rachel, Artie and Brittany, and Mike and Tina are all dating. We also get some updates from last season's storyline. Quinn is doing a lot better after her pregnancy, and there still is a little bit of awkwardness and tension between Kurt and Finn because their parents are dating. We also see this season that there are some new characters that get introduced. A new football player named Sam, Blaine, a Glee Club member from a different school, and they have a new football coach at their school named Coach Beast. Now that we're all caught up on all the new revelations that have happened from season 1 and now to season 2, we can talk about all of the characters. I first wanted to talk about Sam. Like I just said, he is a new character that got introduced this season. He's very genuine. We see that he isn't as swayed by popularity as all of the other people. While he is interested in going out for the football team, he's also convinced to audition for the Glee Club and ends up really liking that as well. So there was a duet competition that was introduced in Glee Club early in the season where, of course, people had to go in duos and perform a duet for Glee Club. Kurt had asked Sam if he would like to sing a duet with him, and Sam was kind of skeptical of it because it was two guys singing, but eventually he said yes because he didn't really know anyone else at the time. And so with that, you've seen all of the other Glee guys and then some other people on the football team, I believe, criticize Sam for doing what he's doing, and he's like, I gave Kurt my word. Who cares if it's two guys singing a song? I promised that to him, and I'm going to be a man of my word. I really love that, and I think that sets just the standard of Sam's character. He overall really just radiates golden retriever energy, very loyal, very sweet, and just good vibes all around. But we do see that while Sam has all these positive qualities about him, he does intimidate Finn. And I think especially for the Justin Bieber themed episode this season, we see that Sam ends up doing this whole Justin Bieber tribute group. Well, it starts off as a solo act, but eventually he invites other people to join him. And when they do that and they perform for the Glee Club, all of the girls like it, especially Quinn. She's very impressed by that. And we see Finn gets very jealous because Sam is doing something that's cringe or embarrassing, and he's really owning it, and people are really receptive to that. So I thought it was interesting. Next, I wanted to talk about Kurt. This season, we see that Kurt is very tired of being bullied, and that leads to him getting very moody and eventually starts lashing out emotionally with people. He's not his normal self. Normally, he's very clever and kind of does make slick remarks from time to time, but now he's just all out rude. And it comes to a boiling point where it's this guy at their school named Karofsky. He's a football player. He's constantly bullying everyone, but especially Kurt. He always makes these super terrible comments about Kurt and just his sexuality overall. They have this moment where Kurt finally stands up for himself and he's like, you know what, Karofsky, you need to back off. And then surprisingly, Karofsky ends up kissing Kurt. And it's because all this time while Karofsky has been bullying Kurt and being super mean to him, it turns out that Karofsky had feelings for him. And from this moment, I had realized the call was coming from inside the house. And I was just so shocked by Karofsky because how childish are we to be mean to someone because you have a crush on them? But from this moment, I'm so glad that they didn't try and make this a relationship with Kurt and Karofsky, because while I am here for enemies to lovers like always, I wouldn't have liked that. And I was proud of the writers to not make it seem like Kurt was checking for Karofsky because he wasn't. I think that they really utilized this moment between Kurt and Karofsky to kind of speak on internalized homophobia instead of trying to turn everything into an enemies to lovers arc, which I enjoyed. this whole situation ends up pushing Kurt and his dad to decide that he needs to transfer schools. So Kurt ends up transferring to this all boys private school named Dalton Academy. He's really experiencing a whole culture shock when he gets here, because while he is sad to leave behind his Glee friends, when he's here it's just a higher caliber of expectations. He does kind of admit that the academic classes are harder, but also they have a Glee club here at this new school. And Kurt is very shocked to find out that Glee is cool. So he goes, he auditions, and he sees that Dalton Academy, their Glee club is called the Warblers. The Warblers are very talented. And the weird thing about this Glee club is that while it is cool and highly celebrated at their school, it's not the same as the New Directions, where uniqueness and being one of a kind is really something that Mr. Shu really reinforces throughout the whole series. It's not something that's as celebrated with the Warblers. They want this one band, one sound sort of feel, and conformity is something that's really encouraged. While Kurt is at this new school, he meets a guy named Blaine. Blaine is also a part of the Warblers. He's actually the head Warbler, and he's openly gay. And so Kurt is now out of the closet, so he kind of tells Blaine the same thing, that he's also gay. So Blaine takes Kurt under his wing and kind of shows him the ropes. Blaine is very well liked, and I think that shocks Kurt a lot, because Kurt, I feel like, assumed that being openly out would mean that he would be lamed or be bullied, but Blaine has this very unique charm to him, and he just has this super commanding stage presence when he's singing that everyone can't help but love him. And honestly, Kurt doesn't react negatively to a person, but it also reminds me of how Davy reacted on the TV show Never Have I Ever, when another Indian girl named Anissa was first introduced, and people took a really good liking to Anissa. And Davy was like, wow, I thought people never liked me because I was Indian. Turns out I was lame. I think it's the same situation that's happening to Kurt. I think he assumed that everyone disliked him or made fun of him because he was gay, but then seeing Blaine also be gay and everyone likes him just shows that he kind of has this different kind of star power to him that Kurt might not just have. We do see that a budding romance starts to form between Kurt and Blaine. But initially, Kurt is way more interested. He's always enamored by Blaine. He ends up introducing Blaine to all of his friends from McKinley High, and they also take a liking to Blaine. And so everyone's kind of asking Kurt, where are things between you guys? And Kurt just kind of says, oh, well, I think he might like me. But then there's this moment in the Valentine's Day episode where Blaine is like, oh, I'm in love. I have a crush on someone. And so Kurt gets really giddy and happy, but turns out it was another guy. And so then Blaine does this whole big performance and declaration of love to this other guy. And he ends up turning Blaine down. And so Blaine's really hurt. Kurt is over on the side trying to act like he's not ecstatic at the moment. And we just see this kind of push and pull on each side subtly until there's this really big turning point in the relationship. And that's when the Warblers mascot, he's a songbird named Pavarotti or something like that. And he ends up passing away while he was in Kurt's care. So Kurt becomes really sad, and so he decides to sing a song to honor them. And you can literally see when the camera goes to Blaine, the gears are turning, that he's starting to see Kurt in a different light. And I love that. But one of my favorite moments is when Kurt and Blaine kind of have this sit down moment, and Kurt was saying some things. I forgot what he was saying, but he was saying something, and Blaine just randomly says, "You move me, Kurt." That moved me. I was gagged, and I loved it, and it was right before they shared their first kiss. It was so cute. It made me so giddy. So yeah, I do really love Kurt and Blaine. I'm surprised I didn't mention them in my favorite couple video, but I do really love them. Moving on to Finn. This season, he's very smothered by Rachel. They've made it official in their relationship. And with that, you see that it's not everything that Finn was hoping for it to be. Rachel has a lot of expectations for herself, but also Finn. And to try and follow that, it's stressing him out a little. And we also see that Finn really leans into being the leader of Glee, especially after he's kicked off of the football team. So at some point in this season, we see that Finn really feels like he only has Rachel and Glee to lean off of. And Rachel gets a little too bold in her relationship with Finn. She was so insecure, and like I said in my last video about season 1 of Glee, if you haven't seen that, you should check it out. But in the last video, I said how insecure Rachel was, and I think that's why she was seeking so much validation from Finn and really seeking a relationship from that, to where now he's in this relationship with her and he's constantly reassuring her and giving her the validation that she needs, where to the point that Rachel started to act a little bit beside herself, and it ended up biting her in the butt because Finn ended up leaving her in this season. Overall, I just think Rachel had a well-needed reality check. We see that she's not getting as many solos as she used to in season 1, and also Mr. Shoe isn't putting up with as much of her diva-like antics as he did before. And also just from her fellow Glee Club members, a lot of them, as they gain more experience and confidence in their singing and show choir competitions, they don't need to rely on Rachel as much for her to show them the ropes and for them to kind of lean on her. And we see that she's really struggling with not being the star of this season, which I appreciated, and I think she needed that because her head got too big this season. Next up is Mercedes. Mercedes gains a lot of confidence in herself, and I think a large part of this is because of another new character this season we see called Lauren Zizes. They have this benefit where they try and raise money for the Glee Club again, and Mercedes really wants to have the last number. She still sacrifices because they have another girl from a different school who wants to have the last performance of the night. And Mercedes sacrifices it, and she says, you know what, fine, that's cool. Then again, Rachel wants to try and get that second to last performance, and Mercedes again concedes, and she says, you know what, fine, that's cool, you can take it. But then we see that this character, Zizes, pulls Mercedes to the side, and she's like, girl, you're fired. You should have the last performance of the show. I'll kind of act as your manager, and I'll represent you. And so, in this super outrageous way, we see that Zizes becomes Mercedes' manager, and she gives everyone all this huge list of demands that Mercedes needs in order to perform. And surprisingly, they do give in to her needs. I was very surprised by that. But I do really appreciate Mercedes because we see this season, out of all the seasons, that she truly is the glue of the group. She's cool with everyone, the not so popular people and the popular people, and just also very talented. And I think everyone in the Glee Club universally recognizes her talent and they love her. While I was watching this season, I was so confused and wondering, why was Mercedes not the it girl at their school? She gets along with everyone. She can sing. She's very talented. And she also is very stylish, especially for that 2010s type of fashion that was in at the time. I think she was very well dressed. So the fact that she wasn't an it girl at their school is baffling to me. Now I wanted to talk about Quinn. This year, her program gets real strict. She's not playing. After losing so much and just losing sight of herself in that first season, especially after dealing with pregnancy, in season 2, we see that Quinn hits the ground with her feet running. She is not playing any games about becoming prom queen. She doesn't want to get pregnant again. She honestly is kind of giving up on boys and rejoins the celibacy club. And I love that for her. I love how she's trying to turn her life around because while it was kind of a moment for weakness for her, she's trying to not totally give in to having a bad year or a bad couple of months and really try and get her life back on track. And I love that. But we do see that Quinn and Sam have this undeniable kind of chemistry, especially when they work together for the duet episode, we see that they have this amazing chemistry with their voices. They just sound really nice together, but also it's just this magnetism between them. And so while at first Quinn pushes him away, but Sam just keeps on pulling back in that golden retriever nature, we see that, okay, she finally says, fine, we can have a fling. But then after they're kind of spending more and more time together, I think Quinn recognizes Sam as a second chance, because in season 1 she lost Finn, that perfect football player boyfriend who was handsome and well liked by everyone, and Puck is just a bum. So I know she doesn't want to go back to him, and that's fine. I understand that. But with Sam, he's very attractive. He's on the football team, and he's a lot sweeter than Finn is. I think Finn can definitely get caught up in the whole social politics of high school, and where at times he loses sight of himself sometimes. But with Sam, we see that he doesn't do that. This season, we also see that Sue kind of gives the Cheerios, Quinn, Brittany, and Santana this ultimatum between choosing Glee or Cheer. And she ends up choosing Glee, and I love that. I think it really shows how much Glee Club means to the Cheerios and the cheerleaders, and for them to finally stand their ground, it was a moment that I really loved to see. Speaking more into that Cheerio type of group, we have Brittany and Artie have this relationship. Brittany is definitely clueless. We didn't see any of her character really in season 1, so to have her own storyline is really interesting, and I love that. But I do think that Brittany has genuine feelings for Artie. I don't think it's the same on his part. We see in season 2 picks up where Artie is very heartbroken that Tina ended up deciding to be with Mike and broke things off with him. I think that Artie was just kind of like, this beautiful cheerleader is into me. The girl that I have genuine feelings for is in another relationship. Why not? I just overall don't see the romantic compatibility between Brittany and Artie, but I do think on both sides they do care about each other a lot, but just as friends. Moving on to Santana, she is the mean girl of the group, but she's my favorite. I love her. She's super funny. Again, she's one of those people who didn't get much of a storyline in season 1, but in season 2 it's very prominent. One of my favorite things about Santana is just the comedic relief that she brings to the show. Like on the Valentine's Day episode, I love how she suspected that Finn and Quinn were kind of having a secret affair. But instead of just trying to call them out, she purposely went and contracted mono, gave it to Finn so that he could pass it on to Quinn. And when she seen that they were both down, she took that moment to put them on blast, which I thought was pretty funny. And also, they had this songwriting episode where they were all challenged to write an original song. And she made this song called Trouty Mouth about Sam's comedically large mouth. I thought that was hilarious. I was cracking up. So I do really love Santana and just the added layers that she brings to the show. But we do see that there's more to her than just being a mean girl or just being funny. We see that she has some intense feelings that she can't really be open and honest about. She really loves Brittany, and we see that they kind of have this secret relationship where Brittany doesn't really know what's going on, and she feels kind of stressed out by their connection. But Santana knows exactly what's going on. She has those romantic feelings for Brittany, but she's just not ready to come out yet. And it's something that we see only Brittany and Santana know about. And so her having to struggle and carry those feelings on her own this season was something very interesting, and it added another layer to her that made me really care for her and made her one of my favorite characters of the series. Next is Will and Emma. They had a budding romance in season 1. They kind of had some chemistry and spent a lot of time together, but Will was married and then eventually started going through the divorce process. And then we see that Emma was kind of dating, kind of not, the old football coach at their school named Ken Tanaka. We have Emma's kind of fear of intimacy, and she has OCD as well, so that kind of prevents her from letting loose and kind of not being so obsessive over the small details of things. And then Will still going through his very messy divorce kind of makes this relationship feel forbidden at times. And so Will and Emma kind of come to this agreement. It's like, we all have our stuff going on, and once we sort that out, I think then we can come back to focus on us. But they don't really come back to each other. Emma ends up dating this dentist named Carl, who's played by John Stamos. I really love seeing Uncle Jesse come back on the show. And then Will is very jealous by this when he sees Emma and Carl's relationship. He tries to fake it off and play cool and kind of invite Carl to participate in the Glee Club as much as Will asked Emma to. But then Will, after enough jealousy, ends up saying, you know what, I'm good. And he moves on to this sub named Holly. She's like the super free spirit, and she also ends up participating with the Glee Club and some things too. And then we see with Will and Holly in their relationship, Emma ends up getting jealous. So then it's just kind of like this back and forth, always a missed opportunity between the two of them. But overall, I think their relationship is super cute. I don't want to overuse the word, but I think this is a good example of yearning, kind of always wanting something that you can't have. But yeah, some pivotal moments from this season that either stood out to me because they were funny or they really added to the storyline. First is the duet episode. I brought it up multiple times in this video, which I think shows the importance. I think it just showcased more talent and more voices than what we heard in season 1. As well as sectionals, we see that Sam and Quinn share a duet in the beginning, super new and fresh. And we also have Mike and Brittany choreograph everything, and they have their own dance solo. Santana gets a solo. So I think it was super interesting. And we were kind of getting tired of seeing Rachel and Finn sing everything and then have Mercedes hit that one last note and then it be over with. It was refreshing. I also like the Justin Bieber episode. It was very relevant to pop culture at the time where Justin Bieber was in his like primetime phase, but also seeing Sam and getting to see more of a new character was very entertaining. The episode where they had that party and they all got drunk was one of my favorites, especially because they sung Blame It. It was one of my favorite Glee covers ever. That's all for today. If you enjoyed, be sure to give a like and as well to subscribe. Comment down below who your favorite Glee character is. Mine is definitely Santana or Mercedes. Be sure to follow me on my other social medias at teentvdeepdivepodcast for more. Thank you so much for listening. Bye.